from the CyberHub bunker and studio, you're tuning in to the CyberHub Podcast. And now for your host and CISO, James Azar.
Well, what it is, security gang. Welcome to another episode of the CyberHub Podcast. We've got a packed show today, and I mean packed, literally jam-packed. A Patch Tuesday recap. So much going on yesterday. We got to start thinking this is a risk rather than a bonus. Because when you have so many patches across so many different vendors coming out in one day, and you've got so many critical ones, how do you get that under control? Right? So we'll talk about that. We've also got Microsoft warning of a massive phishing attack, researchers uncovering something new on the Qakbot ransomware, and President Biden travels to Israel. We're going to be talking about some of the agreements that are going to be signed between President Biden and Prime Minister Lapid today along technology. That's going to be today, tomorrow, before he departs Israel to go to Saudi Arabia as part of his 3-4 day trip to the Middle East. So talk all about that on today's show. But before we do that, we need to fuel up, charge up, get ready for today's packed show. My double espresso, whatever you're drinking today, I hope you enjoy it. You make it yours. Coffee cup cheers. All right. Start off with Microsoft's Patch Tuesday, where yesterday they released 84 different flaws with 5 exploited fixes to exploited 0 days as well. So there's one actively exploited 0-day vulnerability and a total of 84 flaws within the Microsoft ecosystem. 4 of the 84 are classified as critical as they allow remote code execution. The number of bugs are listed here: 52 elevation of privileges vulnerabilities, 4 security feature bypass vulnerabilities, 12 remote code execution vulnerabilities, 11 information disclosure vulnerabilities, and 5 denial of service vulnerabilities. The above does not include 2 other vulnerabilities that were previously fixed in Microsoft Edge. For information about the non-security Windows update, you can read the Windows updates, and those are linked in the show notes as well. So just click that link and you'll be able to get there. This month is Patch Tuesday fixed an actively exploited 0-day elevation of privilege vulnerability. Microsoft classified the vulnerability as a 0-day if it's publicly disclosed or actively exploited. The 0-day is CVE 2022-22047, the Windows CSRSS elevation of privileges vulnerability. Plenty of other came through from Adobe, Cisco, Google, Intel, SAP, and VMware, and we'll go to Adobe first, where Adobe rolled out a major security update for its flagship Acrobat and Reader products to fix at least 22 documented vulnerabilities, some serious enough to cause arbitrary code execution attacks. The patches, which are available for Adobe Acrobat and Reader for Windows and Mac OS, headline a busy Patch Tuesday rollout that also included fixes for serious flaws in Adobe Photoshop, RoboHelp, and Character Animator. According to the advisory from Adobe, the Acrobat Reader update addresses multiple critical vulnerabilities that could expose computer users to arbitrary code execution and memory leak attacks. The vulnerabilities are being documented as use after free and out-of-bounds read memory safety issues. The majority of the bugs are reported to Adobe via their bug bounty program, so get those updated as well. VMware also patches their vCenter server flaw that was disclosed back in November. The CVE 2021-22048 was reported by CrowdStrike Siron, Zinar, and Sagi Scheinfeld. Also affected the VMware's Cloud Foundation hybrid cloud platform deployments. Successful exploitation enables attackers with non-admin access to unpatched vCenter server deployments to elevate privileges to a higher privileged group. So this is coming 8 months after being disclosed for this patch, and just shows you how difficult some of this patching really is. The bug can only be exploited from the same physical or logical network on which the targeted server is located as part of a high complexity attacks requiring low privileges and no user interaction. Despite this, VMware has evaluated the severity of this bug to be the important severity range, which means that exploitation results in the complete compromise of confidentiality and or integrity of user data and or processing resources through user assistance or by authenticated attackers. So that's now patched. There's also a workaround for it. You can, again, see all of that on our show notes at cyberhubpodcast.com or on your favorite podcast listening platform. Siemens, Schneider Electric also address 59 different vulnerabilities. So the industrial giants also joined Patch Tuesday with 13 advisories describing 59 different vulnerabilities. Siemens released 19 advisories that describe 46 vulnerabilities affecting the company's products. 2 of those are rated as critical with a CVSS score of 10. CVSS scores are often, I've said this, so I'm glad to see that they've actually written this here. CVSS scores of 10, 9, 8, 4, 5 are really just trivial from a manufacturer perspective. How you utilize the product, how you've implemented it could make a 4 a 10 or could make a 10 a 1. So just keep that in mind as well. So Schneider Electric also had an advisory for 13 different vulnerabilities. One of them described as a high severity OS command injunction issue in the space logic CBus home controller product. So in the industrial control system space, Patch Tuesday is just as critical for your OT and IT all together at once here from Siemens and Schneider. So that's our recap for Patch Tuesday. A lot there, but you've got to time them by criticality, but you also have to evaluate not what the vendor would say is critical, but what's really critical to you, meaning how is something being used? What data does it process? How vital is it to your business processes before you determine which software to download first? Something critical that's seldom used may not be critical for you as something that's high or medium, but constantly used and has some crown jewels in your environment. You got to be able to prioritize this stuff. It's so important. People often get lost in the critical or high, but it's critical and high in your environment. That's great. If it's not, and it's high, but only 2 people are using it, and it's really just a side process, yeah, you want to put it on your list, but you may want to address a more critical vulnerability today. Microsoft is warning of a large-scale AiTM phishing attack against over 10,000 organizations. Microsoft on Tuesday disclosed a large-scale phishing campaign that targeted over 10,000 organizations since September of last year by hijacking Office 365 authentication processes, even on secured accounts with MFA. The intrusion, which is entitled as setting up an adversary in the middle of phishing sites, wherein the adversary deploys a proxy server between a potential victim and the targeted website so that the recipient of the phishing email are redirected to lookalike landing pages designed to capture credentials and MFA information. The phishing page has 2 different TLS sessions, one with the target and another with the actual website that target wants to access. These sessions mean that the phishing page practically functions as a essentially agent in the middle, intercepting the whole authentication process and extracting valuable data from the HTTP requests as passwords, and more important, session cookies are there. This is why the whole idea of MFA, and not only MFA, but direct passwordless, is going to be so crucial, because as we enact MFA and we give this false feeling that MFA is really all you need to secure your account, it's not. Now they're able to do these types of attacks, and once those become commonplace, and they will within probably, I'd say, the next 3 to 6 months, you'll notice that MFA just won't do it anymore, right? And that zero trust approach is going to have to be a critical part of your environment. Researchers are uncovering new attempts by Qakbot to evade detection. The malware Qakbot is transforming their delivery vectors in attempt to sidestep detection. Most recently, they've transformed their technique to evade detection by using zip file extensions, enticing file names with common formats, and Excel 4.0 to trick victims into downloading malicious attachments that install Qakbot, according to Zscaler. Other methods adopted by the group include code obfuscation, introducing new layers in the attack chain from initial compromise to execution, and using multiple URLs as well as unknown file extensions to deliver the payload. So Qbot, Qakbot, whatever, there's 722 different names, like the naming problem we have in security. It's been around for quite some time. This is a new shift in the way it operates, and they've also done modification for how they use PowerShell to download the DLL malware and switch from how they load the payload and the processes they're using as well. A good read up on this and something to share with your security operations team. And we'll end today's show with President Biden boarded Air Force One last night on his trip to Israel. He'll be spending some time meeting with Prime Minister Yair Lapid. However, there is already a deeper technology corporation being announced by U.S. and Israel in order to divest Israel's sales of their technology to China. The strategic high-level dialogue on technology will be tasked with presenting solutions to global challenges like pandemic preparedness, climate change, implementation of AI, and ensuring a trusted technology ecosystem. And that last part is going to be the critical part, by the way, folks. Speaking to people who are part of these discussions and will be part of a lot of these events that are going to be taking place for President Biden and Prime Minister Lapid. One of the things around the trusted technology ecosystem is actually the supply chain, including potentially creating additional manufacturing. One unknown thing about Intel, for example, is Intel has like 2 manufacturing facilities in Israel. Those facilities operate 24/7. They're just insane, and they create so much Intel processors there as well. The two countries have already signed several bilateral agreements in the field of technology, but this latest announcement comes on the backdrop of U.S. pressure on Israel to limit its technological cooperation with China amid a U.S.-China trade war that has ebbed and flowed in recent years under both Trump and Biden. China has shown interest in Israeli innovation, especially in medical tech, robotics, food tech, and artificial intelligence. China did buy Nuva, one of the largest food manufacturers in Israel. They do, milk, cheese, and so forth, dairy products. For the technology, they really, the cheeses are great, but they really bought it for the technology because China sees that tech as being a way to feed their own population as well. So President Biden will be in Israel for the next few days. NSO Group will also be on the list where there's some lobbying being done to remove NSO Group from the blacklist in order to allow the company to continue there as well. So we'll see if that'll actually take place. There's some stuff there, as well as the whole Iran and the kind of new NATO that's emerging in the Middle East, which is the kind of the after effects of the Abraham Accords between the Emirates, Bahrain, Israel, Jordan, Egypt against the axis of Iran. That's also going to be on the table as Israel continues to punish the Iran nuclear program with its allies and threatening military action, especially as Iran gets closer and closer to a nuclear weapon. So all of that and more tomorrow as we talk about this, and we'll highlight some of the agreements that are being signed in technology so you're fully aware of those. That's it for our show today. We'll be back tomorrow to wrap up this week. Until then, have a great rest of your day, and most importantly, stay cyber safe.
We love feedback, so make sure to connect with us on social media and subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast listening platform.